guys, and welcome to my review of chapter 225 of Haikyuu. And this time I think I can keep this review short because I actually think that the interesting points to talk about in this chapter I already discussed in my two previous reviews because I'm just that good. But I think that overall the chapter was really simple. We just got a lot of examples of like the same things and stuff like that. So let's just get into the chapter. We have the Reformation of Karasuno volleyball club, basically. They're changing things up, they're starting to communicate better. Kageyama is accepting who he is while still being able to take pointers and give pointers to others. He does apologize for his rash behavior and attitude, which Tanaka seems to be the only one who has a problem with, because even though he knows that Kageyama is awkward, hence chapter name, he still can't hold himself back whenever Kageyama tells him that he's doing something wrong. But I think the main point to take out from this chapter about their playing style at the very least is that they seem to be understanding that they have players who are good enough to be able to substitute for their regulars. So as when we have Kageyama saying to Tanaka, well, if you're feeling a bit like tired or anything like that, worn out, you can always just switch with someone else because we do have other players who can take your place. Of course, this is what gets Tanaka riled up because he's not actually that tired. I mean, considering this is their fourth set and they only seem to have... Did they even win this set? I think they won the last set here, but they lost 3 at the very least. But this just means that we're gonna see them use their other players more regularly. Because we had, in the Torizawa match where we had Kageyama getting tired in the, I think it was the 4th set, where Suga had to substitute for him. This will probably happen more frequently when they get, when they're up against tougher opponents and they have to move a lot more. So that's a good thing, and that will give us more exposition of the second years, because I still, for the life of me, cannot remember that last wing spiker's name. We have Chikara and we have, Narita, I think his name is, and then we have someone with K. Kinoshita, I think his name is. But I'm not even sure that's his name, so yeah. I want more exposition of Narita and Kinoshita at the very least, because they're there for a reason. They're supposed to be here for another year as well. So that's an interesting point as well. Takeda-sensei, he says that they're changing, as I said like in the beginning of this review. Karasuno is changing, but it's not necessarily for the better. However, as long as the 2nd and 3rd years are there, it should be alright. Now, this just kind of sets up that when the 3rd years leave, they become more unstable. Of course, as I said, he said the 2nd and the 3rd years, but let's be honest here, Suka and Daichi are like, they are the mom and the dad of the team. They create the stability that we have. They're good with managing the players, and while Chikara is kind of making up for that, I don't think he's quite in that position yet. He is gonna be the captain of the next year, but still, he doesn't really have the dynamics that Daichi and Suga has, because yeah, we have the strict dad Daichi and the kind mom Suga, basically. And Chikara can't fill both those roles for himself, so that's gonna be really interesting. Of course, there's still a lot of time left until the 3rd years actually leave. We're gonna have the spring tournament, and then whenever they lose there, then the 3rd years leave, because I don't think they'll win the spring tournament. I really don't. We have in the beginning of that chapter, let me just find it so that I don't say something wrong. We have more about Kageyama and Tsukishima. As I said, I think it was 2 chapters ago, oil and water. We need more exposition and more development in the relationship of Tsukishima and Kageyama, because they are 2 main characters. Kageyama a little bit more than Tsukishima, but Tsukishima has really been working his way up the ladder of main characters. Of course, the first years are all very precious, and we should all adore them and love them to our best abilities, because I just love all of them. I want to give them a big hug. But that's, I guess, sidetracked. Their relationship, because we have Tsukishima being snarky and sassy as he usually is, and it's just, I mean, it's their usual dynamics, but we again have the comments on how Tsukishima in this match has been slowly hitting the ball from a higher point, because Kageyama started setting the ball from a higher point. And we have Hinata kind of explaining that that Tsukishima in their training camp, the Miyagi training camp, he was paired a lot with Koganewa, and because Koganewa wasn't a really good setter like Kageyama is, he would often set the ball way too high because of course he's one hell of a tall setter, but he's also just not that experienced, and I'm guessing that setting the ball high is a little less taxing than setting the ball low without it getting completely thrown out of course. So Tsukishima kind of adapted to hitting the ball from a higher point, which of course means that he needs to put more effort into it, which he didn't before. But my point with this is that we see that like they're very impressed with the fact that Tsukishima is hitting the ball from a higher point. And it like let me just read this line. Tsukishima is so tall to begin with, so it never even occurred to me that the point of contact on his spikes could possibly be low. But now it's clear as day that he can hit from an even higher point. I think this is a very interesting line because this shows that they didn't necessarily see that Tsukishima was hitting the ball from a lower point, which of course is a bad thing if you want to overcome the blockers. So this just makes me think: are there other players who they're kind of underestimating their natural abilities for? Because Tsukishima was tall, which was it never occurred to them that, oh yeah, maybe he should hit the ball from a higher point than the others because he can literally reach higher, even if he can't jump as high as Hinata, for example. But are there other players who like that? Like, Asahi has insane strength, the same with Tanaka. Hinata is small. Should they use his tininess for something? Should they use his speed for something better? I mean, they're kind of already doing that with the oddball, with the weirdos quick thing. But are there other players whose potential they're kind of forgetting because they put everyone in the same category? I think that's important to remember. I can't really figure it out myself because I'm not a volleyball expert, but yeah, I think that we should keep that in mind. Also on this topic, we finally, or Hinata kind of reveals his true colors by telling them that he notices about Tsukishima, and we have Chikara and Kinoshita saying that, well, we never knew Hinata was this observant. And I think Hinata might not be aware of the fact that he's good at observing people, because so far he's been observing and then he's been kind of learning how to move himself and how other people should move and stuff, but I don't think he's actually aware of how good an ability that is. He kind of just mentions it here because other people were talking about it already, but he's never really pointed these things out himself except for that one time with Hyakusawa. So I think that at some point we should, or the character should like bring up the fact that Hinata has a good eye for these things. Maybe he should like observe us and see, like figure out what Hinata's thinking, because Hinata always speaks his mind, but I don't think he's all that confident in like volleyball technique, because that's the one thing that they keep like not dissing or pushing down on Hinata, but they are always like, okay, Hinata has natural talent, but when it comes to technique, he's not really that reliable because he's been fighting without technique this entire time. But now that he has something to contribute, he's probably kind of just not saying it because he feels like other people have more experience with these kind of things. So I think that could be really interesting as well. But overall, I think this chapter is really just, again, them finding out what kind of team they are now that they are all changing, and now that they are all like kind of adapting to not only Kageyama being or acting differently because he's trying to compromise between a good setter and the kind of person that he is. And we also have like the things with like Asahi being a very apologetic person, but them telling Asahi that, okay, sometimes you don't really need to apologize, it's not really your fault. So I think that it was a fun chapter. There was a lot of dialogue, like a lot of dialogue. But it was probably very necessary. Last thing I want to mention before I end this review is Dateko, because by the end of this chapter we have a lot of focus on the fact that Dateko will be a major threat when we go into the next year, so when Hinata and Kageyama are second years. And this just further solidifies, no, that's not the word, it backs up my point that I have been saying, and some people have kind of been doubting, that we will see Hinata and Kageyama in their second year. Because what's the point of setting that the co-op if we're not gonna see them play in an official match ever again? But I think it's very interesting to see that now that their third years are gone, they are just so much better. And even though I feel like we haven't focused that much on the match itself, like the last 3 or 4 chapters, even though we've actually been playing against them, we focused mainly on Kageyama and the weird things around Karasuno. But they're really good, like, really freaking good. Karasuno lost 3 sets to them. Karasuno actually won against Shiratorizawa, so that should say a great deal. And is it Ukai who says that next year that the co might actually be the most the team that poses the biggest threat. Yeah, he says that right here. Don't be surprised if the most threatening team turns out to be Dateko. And I think that's super interesting because Dateko is like a team that they're so intimidating on court, and off court they are the biggest dorks. I really love them. Like, I have my little Aone here. He's so cute. I mean, I can't even. Let's all just appreciate his Frankenstein costume on the front cover of this chapter. Like, that was hilarious and cute, and I really love him. But I'm getting sidetracked again. Either way, this just backs up my point that we'll see the second year of Hinata and Kageyama, and I don't see why we wouldn't get the third year then, because I feel like with sports anime you either get like the first year, like in Kuroko no Basket, or you get all 3 years. So yeah, I think that's what we will be getting eventually. But yeah, I think this review dragged out a little longer than I intended for it to be, but somehow I always have more to talk about, so yeah, I apologize for misleading you at the beginning, but you can actually see how long the video is when you click on it, so yeah. Anyways, leave a thumbs up if you liked anything that I had to say, leave in the comments below what you thought of this chapter, and yeah, what do you think about Karasuno, the way they're changing and how they're starting to work with each other in these different ways? What do you think about Hinata starting to share more of his observant skills? And what do you think about Dateko being so freakishly strong, because wow, I think they're gonna pose a really big threat to Karasuno next year, but that will be like, it'll be a long time before we see that match in official like tournaments. And yeah, you can subscribe to me if you want to see more of me. I also do reviews of One Piece, Shokugeki no Soma, and Boku no Hero Academia. On a last note though, this might be the last video I do today because it's getting pretty late. I don't even know if Shokugeki no Soma is out yet. And while it might not be late for you, because I guess a lot of my people are from America or somewhere over there, for me it's getting pretty late, and I was up really freaking early because I have morning classes on Wednesday, so yeah. I apologize for that if you're waiting for my Shokugeki no Soma review, but that'll be up hopefully early tomorrow, so yeah, look forward to that. But until next time guys, bye!